Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel Nonstop Talking with your girl here, Vivian Liu. Last month I finished the third and final book in the Folk of the Air series, which means it's time for another series wrap up. So today I am coming at you with series wrap up 9 for the Folk of the Air series, written by Holly Black. The series name is so weird. Like, is it ever even mentioned in the book? Like, it's so hard to remember that I just want to call it the Cruel Prince trilogy, but that's not correct, so I shouldn't do that. So I'm gonna just avoid saying the series name just in case I slip up. Firstly, let's get the summary out of the way. Just to make things easy for myself, I'm going to read the synopsis of the first book on Goodreads. So let's see. Let's start this. Okay. Of course I want to be like them. They're beautiful as blades forged in some divine fire. They live forever. I lied. They will live forever. And Carden is even more beautiful than the rest. I hate him more than the others. I hate him so much that sometimes when I look at him, I can hardly breathe. Jude was 7 when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, despite her mortality. But many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Carden, the youngest and wickedest son of the High King. To win a place at the court, she must defy him and face the consequences. As Jude becomes more deeply embroiled in palace intrigues and deceptions, she discovers her own capacity for trickery and bloodshed. But as betrayal threatens to drown the courts of Fairy in violence, Jude will need to risk her life in a dangerous alliance to save her sisters and Fairy itself. I think I counted in my head only 3 stumbles, which isn't too bad. So as per usual, I will be discussing each books individually, and as I discuss them, I will probably go into tiny bits of spoilers, so there's your warning. Book 1, The Cruel Prince. This book came out in early January of 2018, and due to just the extreme hype, I picked it up in early March of 2018 and loved it. It's my first Holly Black book, shockingly. And straight up, how I first described this was YA crack that I couldn't put down. And I think that it stands true to the entire trilogy. I love the contrasting 3 sisters and how they deal with the trauma that they suffered differently. Literally, they watch their parents get murdered, and then they get kidnapped and are brought up by the murderer in a world where they don't belong, and in a world that's trying to kill them. And it's tough. Jude is such a survivor. When I was saying don't belong, the eldest, Vivian, is technically half Fae, so she belongs a bit more than the twins. It's really the twins that really don't belong in the world of Fae. Okay, so 2 things that really stood out for me in this book is just the political intrigue and conflict and just the deceit. I thought that was super duper entertaining. And something else I really enjoyed was Prince Carden and Jude. Will they, won't they, I was so into it. And I know that a lot of people find Carden problematic, but I don't really care because their chemistry just breathed new life into me, and I was all for it. And so I feel because of those 2 things, I was hooked into the series. Next book is book 1.5, The Lost Sisters. Everyone doesn't I don't know if I'm saying her name right or not, but Taryn. But yeah, everyone doesn't like her, and I don't like her either. I also don't like Locke. I didn't understand why they were fawning over him. But I think what really upset me is that I also have a sister, and I like understand how precious that bond is. So I wouldn't accept Tarnan's apology. And so yeah, I don't like her. But as for this like extra content, I think it was decent, and it was just something nice to hold us over until the next book came out. So moving on, book 2, The Wicked King. Did anyone else feel extreme anger over that cliffhanger ending? I was so mad, and it wasn't a bad ending per se. I just didn't think it could end that way, and I was like, there was so much anger. And I'm like, I guess at that time I was relieved when Holly Black and the publishers moved up the release date for the third and final book. But yeah, let's not dwell on the conclusion of the second book too much. I have a story with The Wicked King. It's not really a story, but so I pre-ordered The Wicked King, obviously, and I think it came out on the 8th of January, which is a Tuesday, and I waited until the night of Friday, which is the 11th, to start it, and I finished it the next day on Saturday, the 12th. And it was one of the first books I read in 2019, and it was a really nice way to start off the year, or start off the reading year, knowing that like I just read a physical book in, like, I guess you could consider it one day, but it's technically like went on to 2 days. So yeah, but it was just a really nice way to start off the reading year, and I'm glad that The Wicked King did that for me. My favorite thing about the second book is definitely still the battling passion between Prince Cardan and Jude. I wasn't a huge fan of them getting married at the end, but then my opinions like change. But at that moment in time when they got married, I was just kind of like, I don't really like this. For me, I felt like their romance could have stayed on that slow burn track for a bit longer. But looking back, I mean, it's alright that they got married. It's cool. It's fine. This second book, I think, still delivered in the court politics and the plays of deception. But for some reason, I like the first book better. Not saying that the second book wasn't good. It was great. But I think like between the two, I like the first book more. And for some reason, like all the sisters in the second book, just like all of them took turns getting on my nerves. Finally, let's discuss the third and final book, The Queen of Nothing. I thought, like, when they first came out with the title, I was like, oh my god, how fitting is this title to what happened in the conclusion of the second book. Loved it immediately. And it became one of my most anticipated books for the second half of 2019, along with Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. The book was released on the 19th, and it arrived on my doorstep the night of the 19th. And on the 20th, after work and after dinner, I read the book and I finished it in one sitting. And that was such, I love like being able to finish books in one sitting, because it gives you that like sense of, wow, I'm so accomplished, even though you're really not. But yeah, so I think like obviously there was like that, the happiness associated with the book being able to hold my attention for its entirety, but also the book was a lot shorter and thinner than I had anticipated, and that was a little bit, I feel like, disappointing and maybe a little like deceptive in a way. This third book still had a lot of court politics and court intrigue, which was, as I originally stated, one of the two things that attracted me to this book. So I did find it entertaining. There was action. I do have a lot of indescribable opinions about this third book, and what I mean is, like, the way I feel about it, I don't think I can properly like put it to words. I'm a little bit like iffy about Prince Carden and Jude like seemingly getting this like magical happily ever after, and I feel like a lot of things were like wrapped up a little too cleanly, no, wrapped up a little bit too neatly. Also wasn't a fan of Prince Carden suddenly becoming a snake, like at pretty much the very end of the book. Randomly, I did like that Vivian and her girlfriend Heather got like a do-over. I felt like it was really like fitting for them, and I like that. I think it worked out well for them. Although I still don't support Taryn, and I didn't like that Locke died off book. It was nice seeing the three sisters unite against Murdoch. I think that was like nice, sweet, seeing the sisters together. All in all, I wrote this in my written review as well. I feel like all the loose ends were tied up, right? And although I wasn't truly satisfied, I acknowledged that my expectations were enormous, and I do feel like the Queen of Nothing did what it was supposed to do. And what I mean by that is that it delivered a finale, and it delivered a conclusion, and I think that's what its purpose is, and I think it succeeded in that, and it still was entertaining. So I think the Queen of Nothing did what it was supposed to do, even though there were moments where I felt like, was this really what I wanted? But it got the job done nonetheless. And yeah, that's how I guess I'm phrasing it. That's how I guess I'm putting it. Yeah, my thoughts on the Queen of Nothing, there and then. Now, how would I feel if this series was to continue, or like, I guess, come back? And I think that's a good question to explore. If you have an answer to this question, leave it down in the comments below. Let's discuss. Personally, like I said, in a really, I guess, slow and awkward way earlier, this trilogy has a finale. It has an actual conclusion, and I don't see how or why it would need to come back. I think it wrapped things up well, and it's been a fun ride, and I just want it to be that's that, I guess. Yeah, we'll stick with that for now. But I don't know, let's see what other people have to say, and it probably might change my opinion on that. All right, next we have table time. I'm shocked. This is the closest my average has ever been to the Goodreads average. Goodreads average is 4.1775, while my average is, interestingly, a perfect 4. Clearly, I love this series, and so do a lot of people. It's apparent with the page count how much shorter the third book is, which is a little disappointing. Looking at the year published column, this series came out and wrapped up very fast. The Folk of the Air series is still quite new, and I'm filling in this table early December, so I'm sure later down the road, when more people have read it, the ratings might change slightly. Yet I don't think the ratings will change much. This is a popular series, and in my opinion, rightly so. Cover time. I own both the original and Barnes & Noble covers. The only noticeable difference is that one is black and the other is white. Both of them look great, but if I had to choose, I would say that the second and third book look better black, while I prefer the white background more for the first book. Moving on past background colors, my favorite cover is probably The Wicked King. I like the splash of the wave and the look of the water and how it interacts with the crown. Then Queen of Nothing is my second favorite. In the white cover, the bottom corner appears to be dark pink petals, but in the black cover, it looks bloodier. There's a gritty sense to it, and the snake just stands out more, so that obviously caught my attention. Therefore, The Cruel Prince is my least favorite, which makes sense since it is kind of plain. Lastly, although The Lost Sisters doesn't have much of a presence, I do appreciate how it matches with the rest of the Barnes & Noble covers. It fits in nicely, and that's that. Outro time. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in my next video whenever that is. Bye!